when billion-dollar industries do that, that's like, oh, that's business owners. They need flexibility. And yet when workers have difficulty, they say it's fine if they die because they don't get health care.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We kind of started talking about how, like, in to a certain extent, the Republicans have become like working class coalitionally. You know, the coalition that elected Donald Trump this time was a working class coalition in its majority, and in that the majority of people making under like $50,000 voted for Trump. And yet, they have used that coalition to attack, the poorest and the most sort of precarious workers in the U.S. And, the Medicaid stuff is, part of that. Medicaid and SNAP, the ending of the subsidies for premiums on the Affordable Care Act exchanges. And they're just kind of going for it. And here is how Joni Ernst responded to somebody saying that this is going to kill people. This is how Joni Ernst, a Republican senator from Iowa, responded to somebody saying that, these things are going to kill people.
So people are not, well, we all are going to die.
We're all going to die is how Republicans are responding to concerns about people dying because of the Medicaid stuff. And, it really is being responded to in this flippant way. And they're doing this because they're saying, oh, well, it's work requirements. It's not actually cuts. And so if you don't work 80 hours a week, then you don't deserve health care or something. And it's just so crazy because the majority of people who are kicked off are not folks who are not going to qualify. They've showed that in what happened in Arkansas. The majority of folks who were kicked off of Medicaid when Arkansas did their work requirements for Medicaid were not people that didn't qualify. They were people that had paperwork errors. And, I was on conservative radio earlier this week talking about this and explaining how that's just a fact. That's what the analysis has shown, is that it's not that people were not working and were kicked off. It's that people had difficulties with the paperwork. And I also pointed out how just last week we had a congressional hearing about OSHA and heat standards where the Morgan or Littler Mendelsohn attorneys and representatives for construction trade industry groups were complaining about paperwork, right? They were in, billion-dollar industries saying that, oh, this paperwork that is associated with protecting our employees from deadly heat is too onerous. And when they do that, that's like respectable and like, oh, that's business owners. They need flexibility. And yet when workers have difficulty with paperwork, they say, not only do we say, well, it's their problem, they're lazy, they deserve it, we say that it's fine if they die because they don't get health care. Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. And there was a Washington Post reporting on this one fellow who was working, and he messed up the paperwork. And so he lost his Medicaid, and he ended up dying because he was not able to get the medicine that he needed. So he lost his job because he had health complications. And, it is just so crazy that people are able to be so flippant about this kind of stuff.
It is. And honestly, it's good that Joni Ernst said that because, we've heard Trump say, oh, we're not touching Medicaid. And Mike Johnson has been saying, oh, we're not cutting Medicaid, we're making the program stronger, or this is all about getting undocumented immigrants out of the program. Well, there really aren't undocumented immigrants on Medicaid, except when it comes to certain states that offer it for emergency situations when someone's going to die if they don't get a medical procedure, and then they're enrolled in an emergency Medicaid program. So if they're talking about that when it comes to undocumented immigrants, then their policy solution is just let people die, which is what Joni Ernst is speaking to. It kind of reminds me of the former somewhat problematic Democratic Congressman Alan Grayson when he was talking about the Republican healthcare plan is if you get sick, die quick. It's kind of the same mentality that the party still has. But when it comes to work requirements, the plan is to reduce the Medicaid population. It's to disenroll people. They won't say that, but that is the plan. You're ultimately trying to reduce spending on the program so that you can divert it toward tax cuts and mass deportation and $1 trillion military budget. But you do want to reduce the rolls. And this has been tried. You mentioned Arkansas. This was tried in Georgia in 2023, trying to get people to show that they're working 80 hours or looking for work. And a Georgia think tank analyzed the results. It was a disaster that ended up costing more money than savings because, and I'm just going to read this real quick, potentially eligible Georgians face a steep paperwork burden, as you're saying, Jacob, from completing a lengthy online or paper application to compiling documents to verify qualifying activities and hours. And only about half of individuals who showed initial interest in applying to the program submitted a complete application. And then it goes on to say that spending on upgrades to Georgia's online eligibility and enrollment system represented the largest proportion of total program costs and was almost 5 times higher than spending on healthcare benefits for enrollees. So this program that was ostensibly to save money ended up costing more money because you need to hire more people to go through all this new paperwork that people have to compile. You need to come up with an online system that people can submit this through. You need to come up with auditors to make sure that people are complying with these new means testing or employment verifications. Often that will be work that is contracted out to some private company that will end up doing that and overcharging the government to do it. So you're ending up spending more money, but less on healthcare. And that's what's going to happen nationwide when you start forcing states to implement these programs in exchange to get federal dollars to help Medicaid. So, like I said, this is to save money, to go to tax cuts, but it's actually going to end up costing the same amount of money. Money's going to go to contractors to police Medicaid rolls, and healthcare, the actual healthcare that people on Medicaid receive, is going to decline by a lot. Really awful stealth way to kick millions of people off their health insurance, which in the United States is, in many cases, a death sentence.
Right. Well, we'll leave it on that hopeful note. Sam Sachs, host of Means Morning News. I really appreciate your time. You can find Means Morning News most days on means.tv. Really appreciate your time and look forward to seeing your episodes next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jacob.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.